On September 21st in 2017, a mother, her daughter, and two children with Down syndrome were riding in a car. They had just left the park. They were on their way to get gas. As they were on the way to get gas, the mother noticed a truck coming into their lane. She was able to swerve slightly into a cornfield next to her, but not enough. Everybody survived, but that does not mean they were okay. There were injuries, but mainly it affected them mentally and emotionally. They still carry that with them to this day. It was a very traumatic day, as no one knew what was going to happen next. They didn't know if everyone was okay. On that day, the driver of the truck turned out to be heavily impaired. He had had a lot of alcohol in his system and was driving drunk. He also had two dogs in his truck that were never found, and he was never reprimanded for his actions, as he gave the police officers a false address, and to this day, nothing has been charged upon him. That family was me and my mom and our friends' children. We all survived. We were all okay. We are here by the grace of God. We are fine. My mom ended up breaking her wrist and a rib, and the car was totaled, of course, and we are still very traumatized by that day. My mom barely drives, and I had a panic attack the first day that I tried to drive by myself. That's something that happened 6 years ago, and we still carry it with us to this day. Luckily, again, we were not harmed, but many people are every day. About 37 people in the United States die in drunk driving crashes, and that's one person every 39 minutes. If you think about that, that's crazy. That's insane that this is so, it happens so often, so heavily, and it's not able to really be stopped. Drunk driving is the United States' most frequently committed violent crime, and that's according to the CDC, the Center of Disease Control themselves. And stated by the U.S. Department of Transportation, at a blood alcohol concentration of only 0.02%, you already lose visual impairment and the able to have attention, do things more than one thing at once. You already lose these functions. But the alcohol concentration to be arrested is much higher than that, but you already lose impairments at that little of alcohol in your system. And about 31% of all traffic crash fatalities are due to drunk drivers, and that's in the United States alone. To fix this problem, which I know, unfortunately, we will probably never fix this problem, but to limit these deaths, these sad, sad deaths, tragedies, and people who are never the same if they survive, I personally think we should have more high visibility saturation patrols, which, to dumb it down, is patrols dedicated to DWI incidences, where there are cops heavily posted everywhere just to look for these signs, to look for these drunk drivers, to be able to seek them out and stop them before they hurt somebody, and to also have checks. Like a license check, you may get stopped. These would be sobriety checks. They may pass off as just a simple little license check when really they're checking if you should even be behind the wheel. I think these will work because once something like this is so heavily publicized, it's supposed to spark fear into those that have the plan of driving while intoxicated. So if you think somebody's been drinking all night, but they know that there are cops patrolled on every road leaving their house, most wouldn't leave, because then they know that they will most likely be getting arrested. But if they're drinking and they know no cops are going to pull them over, oh, there's no cops in my area, they may just go for it because they know they're not going to get pulled over. But if they know they will get pulled over, they may not drink, or they may not go out after drinking because of that fear of the risk of being arrested. And this can happen if we can get a petition together and things of that sort, even though this has already been talked about all over the world, in the United States, in our county itself, having this, because there are so many accidents and tragedies. Once this is so heavily publicized, the policemen themselves are more likely to be actively pursuing taking care of us out there, and they will put themselves and risk their lives to save us. Because it is so sad to know that personally me, I could have just had a day at the park with these two adorable, loving, amazing children who have so much life still left to live, as well as I do, and then my own mother. We could have all died. Our life could have ended right then and there. If my mom wouldn't have had that instinct to swerve, her at least probably would have passed that day. And that's so heartbreaking. That's so heartbreaking. Just in our county alone, a child was just killed because of a drunk driver. She was, I think, 5 years old. That's heartbreaking. Can you imagine if you had a child that was 5 years old and a drunk driver killed her and there's nothing you could have done? That woman decided to get in their car that day while they were drunk, knowing they shouldn't have, and instead of making it home safely, they killed another person and then is spending the rest of their life behind bars. Not only can it affect me personally, if they hit me, it affects them too, because then there goes their life as they are spending it in a jail cell instead of at home drinking on their own time, enjoying life or doing whatever else brings them joy. This is a topic that I've always felt heavily about before this accident happened to me, and still to this day afterwards. I think more should be done about it, and I think we can do it. Because again, put yourself in these families' shoes, put yourself in what they went through, and think of how you would never want you, yourself, or any of your loved ones to lose their life due to someone who made a bad choice, a bad judgment call, and that should have never been on the road. That they could have been stopped. These accidents, these tragedies, my accident, could have all been prevented. None of it had to have happened. They didn't have to get behind the wheel, and they didn't have to continue driving. If these police officers could conduct highly saturated patrols, maybe they can be stopped. Thank you for listening.